Hello and welcome to my homestead. I'm going to give you a little tour of the gardens here as they are at the beginning of May after one of the wettest, gloomiest winters and early springs most of us have ever known. The rainfall here on my hill in Ceredigion was over 200% the average for the time of year. It has been super soggy, and the reason I'm talking to you from the kitchen and not my garden is because it's raining again, and I'll be able to get much better sound standing indoors than trying to record with the drip drip drip, because there's a lot of trees here and it's all kind of noisy. Anyway, considering it's been truly miserable weather, there's still a lot happening in the garden. I've got nectarines and peaches, baby fruit in the polytunnel. When the blossom came out, I had to hand pollinate it with a paintbrush, and it's worked. So these are very young trees. This is the first year that they flowered and the first time we've had fruit. And in the rest of the garden, all the trees are coming into blossom. We've had cherry blossom, and I've been making cherry blossom vinegar with that. I've also made a video with the recipe for making your own cherry blossom vinegar. And the apple trees are in blossom, the pear trees, the soft fruit, all of that's coming into flower. It's looking marvellous. Lots of blossoms on the blueberries, which is always really exciting. Over the winter, I planted more soft fruit into the orchard, including lots more raspberries, because soft fruit's such a good value crop, I think, to grow if you've got the space. It's so productive, and nothing quite tastes like homegrown soft fruit, raspberries, strawberries, black currants, gooseberries. I've got lots of different hybrid berries. I've planted out some more Japanese wineberry, which is one of my favourites, but the previous one I had here seemed to have died the previous winter. So that is going to be like super this year. I am dreaming of all those fruity harvests. And in the rest of the garden, the garlic overwintered brilliantly. I have garlic outside and also garlic in the polytunnel. I do it in the polytunnel because you get an earlier crop, it's bigger, and for some reason that I truly don't know, you don't get rust on it. In the main parts of the garden where I've got garlic growing, I've been interplanting and intersowing the rows of garlic with carrots and different catch crops as well, radish, lettuces, different salad leaves. So those beds are filling up. All the potatoes are out now. In February, I planted 5 grow bags of extra early first earlies in the polytunnel, and also some in the ground at the back of the polytunnel. And they're all in full leaf. They should be cropping towards the end of this month. And then there's some more first earlies out in the garden, and the second earlies and main crop. I've gone to town a bit on the potatoes here this year, partly because horrible weather. I know farmers have really struggled, so I'm anticipating that potatoes are going to be more expensive. And so I've done a few more. In fact, I ran out of potential potato space. So I've made a large potato grow bag in the garden from a dumpy sack, which I placed sheep's fleece at the bottom, which will help hold moisture. And I'm putting any compost that I can find in there. They're planted in. These are a blight resistant main crop, and I will gradually mulch them up as they grow. I'll use some more compost, and then it will be all freebie mulches from the garden, such as grass clippings. Because the nights are still pretty cool, mostly in the polytunnel and greenhouse, I'm putting fleece over the plants, and some of the plants that have gone out into the garden are covered with fleece. This includes the parsnips, which don't need fleece, they don't need keeping warm. However, this keeps the birds from scrabbling about in there, and I keep it on until the parsnips have germinated, and then it will come off. Or if the weather gets super hot, I'll take it off as well. One of the great crops of the spring has been the rhubarb. It's typically early on the hugulette, and it's gone bananas. So we're having rhubarb in everything, and I can be preserving some soon. I'm also making rhubarb wine this weekend, so that will be fun. Won't be ready for another year or so. It's a really nice wine. And also in the polytunnel, greens. We are going green. We are eating so many greens. Everything that's been in there overwintering is now growing abundantly. In fact, most of it is now going to seed, which is totally normal for the time of year. So I will be clearing most of that over the weekend, just leaving a bit so that I've got space to put the tomatoes in, which is one of the jobs for the next few days, putting those in the ground. And if you leave all of these plants, the overwintered ones, until the last possible moment, one of the problems with that, which I am speaking from experience here, is they can attract the slugs. So what I do not want is to create a very, very sluggy polytunnel. And then when my melons, cucumbers, aubergines, etc. go out there, they're still in pots in the greenhouse or in the mini greenhouses I've got in the polytunnel to keep extra warm. But when they go out, they'll just get slugged, and I don't want that. So it's a kind of damage limitation thing as well. My peas, which I first of all sowed into modules and then planted out. I do this because we've got mice and voles and rats here. So this means that they get going and they're not enticing to those rodents. If I direct sow, they just get munched. They're going bananas. They like this weather. The downside of it is I've got lots of hazel here, and I'm getting my pea sticks and my bean sticks from the borders, the wild edges, and it's a bit tricky in the rain because they're all up a bank, so I've got to climb up the bank to saw them off, and it's a bit dangerous if it's pouring down. So I've done most of them, but not all of them yet. From tomorrow it's meant to be dry for a week, so fingers crossed, but the peas are looking marvellous. I have some of the dwarf varieties, much shorter, which are in the back garden, which gets much more wind than the orchard, which is more sheltered. And in the orchard I've got the taller ones, and I grow a mixture of peas for eating as peas for eating as mange tout and sugar peas, and also some peas which will stay on the plant until the pods are dry, and they're for things like making soups and hummuses. Another thing I do have a lot of at the moment are extra plants. Now I always sow more than I need because I'm thinking slugs and other pests can come and eat them, and also me being clumsy as the biggest pest here, and sometimes when you're planting things out, I mean, I'm quite good at knocking their heads off, so I have backups for that reason. I also have some that I'm growing for a friend, and some that I'm growing to sell when I'm giving gardening talks, help with the family coffers a bit, and some which I'm growing for a very exciting project later in the summer that I can't talk about yet. So it looks like I've got a ridiculous amount of plants for a half-acre homestead, and that's true, I do. There's more plants here than I actually need, but some are for projects and some are backups, and it's always easy to share spare plants. So jobs coming up for the next week here at the homestead include doing some weeding because it's been great weather for weeds, and I don't let my veg beds get completely covered with weeds. I've got loads and loads of different kinds of weeds in the wild bits and in the grass and all the rest of it, so everything's taken care of. And I've got loads of things to plant out in the polytunnel. I've got more things to plant out in the garden, more things to sow. I will put the what to sow in May list at the end of this video. And it's a lot of things like, you know, pruning, getting the pea sticks ready, putting those up, sowing some more beans. I've already got quite a few on the go, and just like general busyness, which is really exciting. One of the things I am doing today is making sure I've sown more companion flowers, because I do like putting flowers in amongst all the vegetables here. It's great for biodiversity. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my update, and happy gardening.